of Jewish Law, chapter 129. We're up to law 13. Number 13, Yud Gimel. All right, so we're speaking about the blowing of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, and that there's three sounds. There's tekiah, it's a long sound. Shvarim is three medium-sized blasts, and Turah is 9 or more short little blasts, like little sobs, and they're meant to be the same length. So the 9 short ones are the same length as 3 medium ones. And
Rabbi, there's a lot of background noise.
Yeah, so I'll just mute everyone, and you'll be able to unmute if you have a question. Still the noise. Everyone's muted. All right. Anyway, so we have the 9 short ones are the length of the 3 medium ones. So 3 short ones equals 1 medium one. And so then 9 equals 3. And the 3 medium ones equal the length of the full size one. It goes like that. So Yud Gimel, number 13, Shira Tekiyas, the length of the tekiah blast. The Chatchila Tzarech Lio is Kach. In the first instance, it has to be that a Truah hi Tisha Koiches Ketzorim, that the Truah is 9 short blasts, 9 short sounds. So this is how we blow the shofar. The Shvarim, Yaseh Shloisha Shvarim, and the Shvarim we blow 3 medium-sized blasts, Zeh Achazeh, one after the other. And each of the shvarim, the medium-sized ones, are the length of 3 of the short ones of the Torah. So 3 short ones equals 1 medium. So the 9 short ones ends up equaling the 3 medium. But then says Shigama shvarim. So it comes out that the shvarim, the medium-sized blast, is the same length as the 9 short ones. Now we have to be very careful that we don't blow, we don't draw them out, each of the 3. Right? So till it comes to equal like 9 sounds. Because we make it too long, if we draw it out, it becomes, if the 3 medium ones, so each of the 3 medium ones has to be around the same size as 3 of the short ones. But if we drag out the medium one, that each medium one is the size of all short ones, in other words, it's the same as a tekiah, then it's no good. It's not a medium blast anymore. Now it became a long blast. And even after the fact, so if it's a little bit longer, after the fact, it's still good. But if it becomes the length of all 9 short blasts, so it's the same as tekiah, then after the fact, it's no good anymore. David.
Is there a problem having the long ones be too long?
No, can't be. The only problem becomes a practical problem if when you try to blow the tekiah, the gedola, the really long one, you have to make it even longer. So if you made your tekiah too long, it's hard to compete with that. But tekiyas, heina havaras b'shutais. Now the actual tekiah sound is just one unbroken blast. The say the tekiah shvarim Torah tekiah. So before we just get to that point, so we end up, the tekiah is one long blast. It's the same length as the 3 medium ones, which is the same length as the 9 short ones. Now, over the years, there became a bit of a mix-up, primarily due to persecutioners went to exile and different things, and so already in Talmudic times, there was a lack of clarity about a point. So what's the point? The point is on Rosh Hashanah, we actually have to blow a tekiah and we have to blow teruah. What got confused or lost due to persecution and difficult times was, what is the definition of teruah? So one view is that it is what we call teruah today, the 9 short blasts. The second view is that a teruah in the Torah refers to what we call shavarim today, 3 medium blasts. And the third view is that it's both of them. First blowing 3 medium blasts, then 9 short ones. So what we do is to make sure we do the mitzvah properly, we do all 3. As a matter of fact, we end up doing 3 sets of all 3, but that's we'll get to that shortly. But what we do is we do all 3. So we do a tekiah. I'm not saying it in order now, I just want to get it all clear. A tekiah followed by what we call teruah today, the 9 short blasts, followed by tekiah. So that's one set. And that way we fulfill the mitzvah according to that opinion. Then we do another set of a tekiah, then what we call shavarim today, the 3 medium blasts, then another tekiah to fulfill the mitzvah according to the opinion says that what we call shavarim is in fact the teruah. And then we also do sets of tekiah, shavarim, teruah, tekiah. So the tekiah then is followed in between the 2 tekiyahs. We have both the 3 medium sounds and the 9 short ones. So the 2 of them together makes the sound. Okay, so that way we fulfill the mitzvah blowing shofar according to all possibilities. And that makes sure that we actually do it properly. So in that set, so when we are blowing, so V'seidah tekiah, shavarim, teruah, tekiah, when we're blowing the set, that we have the long blast, and then in between the medium and the short together, then the next long blast. Now we have to do longer tekiyahs, because till now the tekiyahs, the long blasts, had to be the same length of what was in between. So it was either 3 medium sounds or 9 short ones. So the tekiah ended up being the equivalent of 9 short ones, which is the same as 3 medium ones. But now that we have both in between, we essentially have to make it as long as 18 short ones, because we have the 3 medium ones and the 9 short ones in between. The Hainu, Kamoi Shemona Asar Koiches. This means that the tekiyahs have to be at least the length of 18 short ones. So practically what happens is that whoever's blowing has someone next to them who either points or announces what he blows next. And that person often has a watch with a second hand, right? And they actually check how long everything is. Say the tekiah, shvarim tekiah, but when we're blowing just the long, medium, long, then take out tekiah, ruka kamoi shvarim, daino tisha koiches. Now the tekiah only has to be as long as these 3 short ones, which is only 9. So, sorry, the 3 medium ones, which is only 9 short ones. And likewise, when we blow the long, short, long, each long one, each tekiah is the length of the 9 short ones. All right. Now we've got another issue. Right, we start to see it gets a little bit complicated here. Sorry, David, yes.
The 9 short ones, is there any maximum number?
Not really. You could blow more than 9. But let's say, for example, a person just blew 12 or 13, just as an example. His tekiah is going to still have to be as long as what he blew in between. So don't keep blowing forever, otherwise.
So if a person blows 50 short ones.
Yeah. So I don't think anyone blows 50. Most people end up blowing more than 9, because you end up you give it a good rip, but and you let it go, and you try not to You do a little extra to make sure you always get the 9. But you know, no one's gonna. I don't think anyone does or should drag it out more than that breath. So again, we all comes back to, as we said, we somehow, due to persecution, we lost exactly what is the definition of Torah. Was it what we call Torah, the 9 short ones? Was it what we call Shavarim today, the 3 medium ones? Or is it the 2 of them together? Okay. Now, in the one where it's together, the question is, are you meant to take a breath between the 2 or not? So in other words, do we go Tekiah and then Shavarim and Torah without taking a breath in between, then another Tekiah? Or do we do Tekiah, Shavarim, take a breath, Torah, then the Tekiah? So that's the question. So again, since we don't know, we do both. So what you'll find is that we blow the shofar twice. We blow once before Musaf, for the additional service, so after the Torah has been read. And then we blow another set of everything. Well, not 3 sets again, so we're blowing 3 sets after reading, and then another 3 sets during Musaf. And there's different customs when during Musaf, but everyone blows it, well, it's just the repetition, also the quiet Musaf. And we'll see in one of them we take a breath, and the other we don't. David, yes.
So since 9 is the number that's mentioned, is it preferable to be 9 or closer to 9 as opposed to 20 or 30 or 40?
Yeah. Not 20 or 30, but a few extras, no problem. Okay. So the Chain B'Seid the Kiyas Torah. Sorry, said that. Right, now, but Tekiyas Shekoiden Tfilas Musaf. The shofar blowing before Musaf, after the Torah reading. Yes, last Shavarim Torah, ben Shim Achas. Then when we do the Shavarim, the Torah, the 3 medium, followed by the 9 short, we do those all in one breath. We don't take a breath between the 3 short and the 9 medium. Sorry, the 3 medium and the 9 short. It's complicated enough how it is. You don't need me saying the wrong thing. Right. So we don't take a breath between the 3 medium and the 9 short. We do that whole thing in one breath. And also, if you have the person announcing what he's blowing, so in Chabad we don't announce because you're not really meant to speak from the time you make the blessing on the shofar until the end. Technically, you can speak for the sake of the mitzvah. So the person who's saying Tekiah is telling the person about Tekiah, he's not really speaking, he's helping the mitzvah. So technically he could. But ideally, you should avoid even that. So in many communities, they just point. It's printed in the machzor, what you blow, and he points, and that's how they know. But there are still plenty of communities who the person who points also announces it out loud. So if you're in a place where they do announce it, he should say, Shavarim Torah. No, he puts it together. And in the blowing, that's during the repetition. Now we do it in 2 breaths. So the second set of blowings, which we do during Musaf, now we do take a breath between those 2 sounds. And that way we've done it both ways. But at the very minimum, you can't have an interruption between them. In other words, even for some reason, someone ran out of breath and they had to take a breath when they weren't meant to, or even if you are taking a breath, but don't do something else or say something else. There can't be an interruption between them. But they should be immediate succession, one right after the other. And also, as we said, the announcer announces them together. So he doesn't say Shavarim and then he blows and says Torah, but he says Shavarim Torah. So it all goes together as one sound. Okay. So was that terribly confusing, half confusing, quarter confusing? Let's give it a score out of 10 for confusing. Yeah, Susan.
What could you please tell me why, how much time between one sound and in other words, there has to be a certain amount of time that this is done, or it's done just quickly?
Okay, so between each sound, there has to be a small pause. Otherwise, it's not a different sound. It's just one long sound. So between each sound, there has to be a pause. So between the tekiah,
yeah, right. That's what
what you blow between, there has to be a small pause. And also, we blow a tekiah at the beginning of one set. Then we blow again at the end of the set. And then we blow another tekiah for the beginning of the next set. Those two tekiyahs also have to have a pause in between.
Right.
Otherwise, it ends up just being one massive tekiah and not two separate ones. So each sound has to be clearly audible that it's a separate sound.
Okay.
Plenty confusing.
So, okay, now.
Do you blow?
Sorry?
Do you blow shofar?
Yeah. I try not to.
Give a demonstration.
But I have on Rosh Hashanah a few years.
Can you give a demonstration so she can understand what we're doing?
You want a demonstration?
I was too embarrassed to ask that. Thank you very much, Ezra. Thank you.
All right. My trusty shofar. Okay, so tekiah, the long sound. Then we have shavarim, is the three medium sounds. Then we have the trua, which is at least 9 short sounds. So that's
all I remember hearing is those short sounds when I was in the shul. I don't know why. That's all I remember hearing.
Well, as we said, it's like 3 different types of crying. There's one long, anguish cry. There's like medium size, like regular crying. The short one's little sobs. So maybe at that moment, your heart needed to sob. And that's what you connected with. It's, and I'm not saying it to be funny. I'm being serious. There are times where, whatever, we're all in different stages and parts of life, and there's different things that we connect to more clearly. Yeah, thank you, Ezra, for that suggestion. That was actually, I should have done that before. That would have made it a lot easier.
I think sometimes they try to start and it doesn't go, so they try a couple times. That sounds the same like what you say, trua.
Yeah, it does. So this particular shofar has actually got a pretty good sound. I like this one. But what happens is that if you're blowing on Rosh Hashanah and you're blowing 100 blasts, I don't mean to be gross, but it gets saliva in it. So at a certain point, it doesn't go anymore. So you have to change. So when I blow on Rosh Hashanah, I normally have at least 3 shofars. Normally 3 shofars. And even then, you have to change backward and forward sometimes. Yeah. And it's not on that, because everyone has a different mouthpiece, because it's a natural product. It's not like a trumpet that, you get this standard man-made commercial size mouthpiece. So also what happens is when you're blowing 100 sounds, particularly when you get to the second day, your lips are getting sore, right? So, that's also affects the sound. And sometimes changing shofar, just puts the pressure at different places.
You need different amount of air too for different shofars. So if you change, it makes it difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a pretty good size for blowing. Actually, if you ever go shofar buying, right? When you get a very small one, it takes more breath, and you get the long ones, like a different animal would be a longer one, but any kosher animal except the cow that has a hollow horn. When I say hollow, there's marrow in it, and you have to actually boil it to get it out, but it's a separate piece. There are animals that have a horn that it's the horn is one solid piece, and to get a hole, you'd have to drill it totally. So that's not good. It actually has to be that the inside and the outside are two substances. So any kosher animal. So you have like different gazelles that have these really long shofars. So my oldest son, the one who got married and now lives in Florida, for those who were there, he often uses the long one. You know, it's for theatrical effect.
Yeah.
Particularly after Yom Kippur, takes his great big long shofar and he blows it.
Is it the straight one or a spiral?
It's
long one.
Yeah, they're pretty
spiral.
They're
spiral.
Yes, yeah. I know they're supposed to be spiral.
Yeah. Now, Ashkenazim generally always try to use a ram's horn for two reasons. Number one is that it's bent, right? So it shows that we're like bent over, like so to speak, subjugating ourselves to Hashem. And also, it's a reminder, not that God needs a reminder, but so to speak, a reminder of the binding of Isaac, that instead they offered a ram. So show a ram, and that's how it goes. Okay. So that is the shofar sounds.
One more question. Do you have to be trained to how to do that? I mean,
so
after you get bar mitzvah and then you learn.
Well, you have to be bar mitzvah. Now, to actually blow it, you just need to practice.
Okay.
Right, just need to practice. Now, you need to know the laws, because otherwise it might not be the right lengths. So you do need to study the laws, but in respect to just blowing, it's not so much training. You know, pretty much anyone can do it.
You have to have good lungs.
Yeah, you have to have good lungs. Yes. Many years, 16 years ago, I had pneumonia. And the next Rosh Hashanah, I conked out in the middle of blowing shofar. My lungs hadn't recovered. It was maybe 4 or 5 months later, but still I didn't have my, you know, it actually probably took a few years to get back to what it was before. So yes, healthy lungs definitely helps. Definitely helps. But so that's right. And Rabbi Smith blows shofar very nicely as well. He came to help me several times in Australia, and one of his brothers, actually all of his brothers, came at least 1 year to help different times.
Very nice.
Yep. So okay. So yeah, so my youngest boys.
David has a question. Yes.
Is there any change that takes place if you have to change the person who's blowing, or he just continues from where they left off?
Yeah, yes and no. How's that for a good Jewish answer? So sometimes someone can't continue. So yes, he's going to continue from where he left off, but he's going to start that set again. So if he was between sets, he's just going to, start the next set, and there won't be any repetition. But if the person blew the tekiah, and then the middle sound, let's say, for example, the medium ones, they couldn't do that. So the person taking over is going to start the tekiah. So we get that uninterrupted set. Yeah. But I'm glad I got to give the yes and no answer. That's makes me feel very Jewish. Like the person asked the rabbi, why do you often answer questions with a question? He says, why do you ask that? It's Talmudic thinking. Okay. So, number 14. Now, when the person says the brachas for blowing the shofar, so let's just go back a step. See, what's happening over here is the person blowing the shofar is going to fulfill the mitzvah for everyone. Yeah, there's actually a whole discussion, is the mitzvah to blow the shofar, or is the mitzvah to hear the shofar? But we'll leave that aside. But, you know, similarly, let's say you might have a situation where, you know, you might have 10 people at a Shabbos meal, and maybe only one person is making Kiddush. So in reality, every individual has the obligation to say Kiddush. But what they're doing is they're fulfilling the obligation by listening to every word from another person. So when that happens, we'll just use Kiddush example because it's more common, more frequent, so it's easier to picture. If they're saying it for you, then you can't interrupt. So obviously you can't say anything unrelated, but even while he's saying the bracha, normally if I would hear someone else saying a bracha, not for me, they're saying a bracha, they're having an apple, and he makes a bracha on the apple. When he says Hashem's name, I say Baruch Hu Ruch Shemoy. Blessed is he and blessed is his name, right? So I show that I'm also praising Hashem. But if he's making the bracha for me as well, so Kiddush example, I'm not allowed to say Baruch Hu Shemoy, because even though it's a beautiful thing to praise Hashem's name, but it ends up that I'm speaking in the middle of my own bracha, even though I'm not saying the bracha, but he's saying it. I'm fulfilling my obligation of saying it by listening to him or her, right? So when it comes to blowing shofar, the bracha is going to be the same thing. We all need to do the mitzvah of shofar. So the person who's saying the brachas is saying it for all of us, not just for himself. So we cannot say Baruch Hu Shemoy. So we'll see. When the person blowing says the brachas, Al Yomer Kahal Baruch Hu Shemoy, the congregation should not say Baruch Hu Shemoy. Ach Yishma Heitev is a brachas. Rather, they should listen carefully to the brachas. Va'acha kol bracha yomer b'kavana amen. And after each bracha, they should say amen. And with kavana, the intention means you should say that you agree, you're part of this. Va'aso lahafsik mikan ad la'acha kol tikir shebechsas tefillah. And once you say the bracha, you're not allowed to speak. You can daven and different things, but you can't speak until we finished all the blowings. But al kain, ein the shamish the hachrish the ki yafa b'shas tefillah avshel noig kain pamacheres. And therefore, the shamish, the gabbai, should not announce shtika. Shouldn't tell people to be quiet, right? Even though, the truth is, I think it's better in shuls we don't have someone going around going, "Shah, quiet, be quiet," because those people end up being more disturbing than the guy who was talking, right? But even if they would do that, they shouldn't do it on Rosh Hashanah during Musaf, because that's going to become a interruption in the middle of the mitzvah. We'll just summarize the next one, that after each set of blasts, there's a custom that people say, you certainly hear Ratzon, we ask Hashem certain prayers. And again, it's all in your machzor. See, before we had nicely printed, beautiful typeset machzorim, people had these things that were very expensive, and you couldn't print things multiple times. So we had to remind ourselves all the time. But today, if we follow the machzor, you see after each set of blowings, most machzor has a small little prayer that we ask for beautiful things. That's it. Any questions?
But we're supposed to say amen after every bracha.
Yes, so amen. Yeah. All right. Well, I wish everyone a wonderful afternoon. And even though it's Monday, wish you a good Shabbos, because we see you again Sunday.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Everybody.
Take care.
Like I said, stay safe.
You too.